Funny thing, my first camp in Buffalo, was our first exhibition game was in Montreal, and there's a story behind it, but you'd have to close the doors because Scotty Bowman was pretty mean to me that time. But no, we came up there and you do the three-line shooting pre-game before the game starts. You get a warm-up, and I was the last guy in line, obviously a rookie, and just trying to find my way through. But Guy Lafleur is like right behind me, and could almost touch him, right? And it's like, oh my God, I'm playing against Guy Lafleur. But he was my idol. I liked the Montreal Canadiens, and then I got to play against him.
Wow. Any interaction with him, or did you?
Well, we became friends with, over the time, because he was playing in Montreal, and he went to New York and Quebec, and so I was able to play against him. And you meet him at functions, so you get to talk a little bit. I mean, we don't call each other. I mean, he's
Right,
away,
sure.
Right. But no, but what a great player, great ambassador. It was just a treat to meet him.
Toughest? Who was the toughest you ever played against?
Well, I was fortunate because my team in Buffalo was pretty tough my first year playing in the old Adams division. You had the Boston Bruins, Hartford was always a tough team, Montreal, but the toughest player I had to play against, they were all pretty tough when you're 18 and about 70 pounds. I don't know. I think a lot of teams, their strategy was to run me because they wanted to take me out of the play. But
who hit you the hardest? What hit you the most?
Bertuzzi did in Vancouver when I was playing with Calgary. He lined me up. There was a couple guys, but he lined me up, and I knew he was coming. And, that's what he did. He hit me from behind, and I turned around and cross-checked him in the face, which was
instinct.
Yeah,
that's South St. Paul instinct at that point.
If you're gonna play that way, you're gonna have to stick up for yourself. But Owen Nolan too. He hit me, knocked me out. So there's a lot of instances. I've had 5 concussions as far as when they were keeping score of the concussions. I don't know anything happened before that. So if I forget your name, you'll know why. But
it's all right. That we can now. You're doing well tonight. So should you be away from the group? Are you okay?
You're okay. I'm next to TV. I think you'll be good.
You're gonna be good. All right, Tommy. Name a hero in your life. Just in general. Can be international, national. Can be local. Anything but your 3 fathers.
Steve Cannon.
Oh. Why?
I marveled at his career. A lot of people don't know he did 13 years at KSTP before he ever arrived at CCO. Everybody knows him as a CCO guy, but
Boulevard of Golden Dreams.
He had a long career before he ever got to CCO, including wonderful stories of first hearing himself on the air in Duluth. Steve's gone now. I don't think he'd mind me telling this story. He told me the very first time he heard his voice on the air. And a lot of us in radio, if we're honest, can understand this.
Yes.
Very, very first time. No, not thumbs down, brother. That's the dishonest take.
No, you're
Steve Cannon went to Canal Park up in Duluth and turned on the radio in the dark one night. And there was some recording he had done for the radio station, and he listened to it in the car. And he said, then and there, Mishke, I damn near came. And that was the wonderful thing about Steve Cannon. He was so wonderfully honest about everything. And he was from the Mad Men era, and his stories, man, most of them can't be told. But I used to sit in his kitchen over by Lake of the Isles, and Steve held court. You didn't say anything. He didn't give you room to, and that was fine because he was so good. He just talked. And I just listened. But one time, I ran into Keeler, and Keeler said, I used to park cars at the U of M, and Steve Cannon was my hero, and I've always wanted to meet him, and I hear you know him. And I said, he'd love to meet you, Garrison. You gotta meet him. I do have to tell you, Steve holds court. What do you mean? Well, you let him do the talking. That was it. Keeler, no meeting Steve Cannon.
Oh.
Because when you got the 2 big horses, they both want to hold court. So it's better to just be a young guy and listen to these older guys and take what you can from them. But Cannon was great. He'd sit in his kitchen at home and he'd put on a little kid's bib, with little bears on it, and he'd eat his lunch. I said, what the hell? Is this what they do up on the range? What? He goes, it's Jerry, my wife. The last time I ate, I got food all over my shirt. She threw the bib at me and said, start doing wash or start wearing the bib. So I wear the bib.
Great story about Steve Cannon. John Souchere, Joe's brother, was the sales manager over at CCO. And John he wanted Cannon to sign on as the spokesman for Jiffy Lube. And John wanted Cannon to go to different Jiffy Lubes to check out the operation and so forth. And Cannon said, absolutely not, the deal's off. And John was just heartbroken because it was going to be a big money maker for the station. So about 10 minutes come by, and Cannon walks into Johnny Souchere's office and sits down. And he looks at Johnny and he says something to the effect of, listen, hotshot, I'll take all the money for Jiffy Lube, but I'm not going to every bleeping one. I'll go visit one for 20 minutes, and I'm not going to go see the rest of your 15 mother bleeping Jiffy Lubes and take that deal or I'm gone. And Johnny's like, done. How about 20 minutes? 15, and now I'm walking. It showed that Cannon was always in charge. He always, not doing the fair. How big is it not to do the Minnesota State Fair if you're a radio show?
Steve never did his voices. Jimmy, just a little while ago, you people probably wondered why the hell he did that. He just turned his back to do Carl Franklin, because I've never seen Carl Franklin. When I interviewed him for my podcast, I put up a curtain between us. I have never seen him do it, which is why he turned his back in deference to me, because I don't ever want to see him do it. Steve Cannon at the Broadcasting Hall of Fame, Minnesota Broadcasting Hall of Fame, was asked by the audience, do Ma Linger, do Backlash LaRue, do Morgan Mundane, and he said, turn out all the lights. He made them shut the whole thing down and go black, and he said to me, those guys were real to me. They were real. And if I do it where you can see it, it's no longer real anymore. It's all a bit. And I get that. And I don't even want to see him do Carl Franklin. I don't ever want to see that.
Well, then I'm pretty much an idiot because I do all of my impersonations in front of everybody. All right, everybody, this is the Bobby talking.
None in this room should ever feel sorry for me. I'm the luckiest person in the world and had the greatest time that anybody should ever have in life. But I want to tell you that two things happened in my life that maybe would explain why I have gone through this life kind of headstrong. I had to, in 1983, take over for the most beloved television personality perhaps in all local news in the United States. A man who had become part of the fabric of Minnesota. And he's gone, I had to sit there. And we received 15,000 letters a day saying basically, you're no Dave Gore. And I hand wrote, before there was email, I hand wrote each one of those that had a return address. And I said, buddy, I know that better than you do. And I had to fight through the fact that I was replacing the most beloved figure in television. I don't know how you do that. I don't know what kind of ego it takes, except the kind I have, to just persevere, just to keep getting up and going to work every day, being told that you are not the person and never will be the person you replace. And I got that behind. And said at CCO Radio, we would like you to take over the afternoon drive for the Steve Cannon show. What? The most beloved radio personality, the most. I gotta do this again? And for 10 years, that's what I did. So, and
But by then there was email, so you just had to hit reply and type it in.
on my last show, I called up Steve and I said, my last show, I want one guest. That's you. Come in and go to Studio A and we will just do a show together. But it will be your show, not mine. And so the last show I did was with Steve Cannon. And I let him finish. I got the money.
Such a great line. Such a great line. My inner mingling with Steve Cannon was only at sports games. I, of course, being the lowly rookie, I'd be up in the press box and I just kept my mouth shut and observed. And he would be up there and he wasn't holding court like Royce because, or Sid, look at me. But he would just kind of stand around and observe, and there was kind of an aura about him. But he had a command without, in the press box, trying to say, I'm here, I know more sports, So I never really interacted with him, but just observing him, he was a badass. He was a badass without having to prove that he was a badass. So I thought he was a neat guy. I think the only words to me was, are you the rookie? Yep. Okay. I think that's all right. He didn't engage me, and that was it. That was fine. I just kind of skulked away. But
since we're talking about that, Mishki, you met him later in life, and I remember you telling a story about Cannon, and it was kind of sad that you were his only friend in the end. Can you share that?
This is a phenomenon I've wondered about often. I don't know if you've ever seen the American Classics piece on Channel 2 on Johnny Carson, but that guy at the end of his life was utterly and completely alone, not just without friends, without family. He had estranged himself from all family. And I always marvel at how these guys who just seem like they should have more friends than anybody are alone at the end. Cannon was all alone at the end. And the only thing I can think of is he did hold court. I accepted that he didn't ask me a lot about me. I didn't care about that because I'm sitting with the great Steve Cannon. Tell me another story, Steve. But maybe with his peers, that got to be a little much. I don't know, but I will say he died of cancer, and he was dying at the end, and I was with him, and when he was dying, friends appeared. They came out of the woodwork, they started to show up, and one day, towards the end, I was hanging out with him, and he said, Mishki, I got a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends. Because these people had come to say goodbye. But he was a loner. He hung out with his wife, Jerry, and he had kind of a son. Mike Lynch was like his son, looked at him as like a dad. I kind of looked at him as a dad, too. And I was with him when he got the diagnosis that you're going to die of cancer. He had me take him to the hospital that day, and I was with him and Jerry when they said, you're out of here. And here's a freaky story. When you have what he had, that kind of cancer, you have no appetite. And they wanted him to eat. So his poor wife went out on the streets of Minneapolis trying to buy marijuana so that he would get an appetite. And poor Jerry, this lovely, beautiful, sweet old woman on the streets of Minneapolis looking for pot, God help me. What that was, but that was part of the story at the end. But when he died, he was listening to a Twins game, and it was the 9th inning played out, ended, and he breathed his last. He was such a Twins fan. But when he was dying, he said to me, I remember he said, I don't want to go right now. I don't want to die now. I want to see how this Obama fella's going to do. And I want to see this new Twin Stadium that they got going on. And this is just a lousy time to die. And he wasn't talking at the end. He wasn't saying very much. He was just kind of breathing, and they were waiting for him to die. And I gave him a kiss on the forehead, and I left. And as I was walking out the door, I just heard him go, "I'm not dead yet."
I thought his last words were going to be, "I got the money."
Oh God, that got the money thing is such a bizarre thing. I have never met a man who has had a more contentious relationship with management. He just hated, which was from his old range days, union guy. He just hated management. Hated it.
I thought there was a new somebody can confirm this story or deny it, but I'm pretty sure it happened. There was a new general manager hired, and he had to do contract negotiations with Canon. And I think Canon wanted a Mercedes as a bonus or something like that. And the guy said, "Oh no, it's just not in the budget. There's absolutely not going to happen." And he sat for a minute and looked straight in the eye without blinking and said, "You're the new GM, right?" "Yes, I am." "Do you want to be the GM that lost Canon on WCCO radio?" And they ended up working it out, but I just thought, again, taking command of it, going, "Look, do you want to be the guy that you are losing a legend?" He could pull out that card when he wanted, a legend in radio, and it's because you won't give him a Mercedes bonus, whatever it is. Something, I don't remember the name of the guy, but hopefully that is true, because I like that story. All right, moving on to you.
Just Don a question. Don told the story.
Don told the story on the radio about a horse and getting bucked off the horse. And you said something to the effect that it's interesting because it's also true. Can you tell us a story when the map flew out and you were horse riding, one of your situations? Can you share that? I know it's not one of your best moments as your face is showing, but
Sounds like
it's a
you're
good story.
Some
It's a
humble
great
pie
story.
here, huh?
No, it's an unreal story, and it has the truth to it.
I was in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. Some of you may have known in my career, 15,000 miles of Canadian rivers. I've taught survival in the service. I'm an outdoors guy, mountain climber, rock climber, ice climber. And so I was with a couple of people going into the Bob Marshall Wilderness of Montana. And we were going up to a plateau, and in order to do that, we had to ride horses 26 miles. And then the horses would be taken off from us and we would walk up to the top the rest of the way. We got horses that were not really well trained, and they were getting away from us quite a little bit. And I had a horse that was named Oscar, and which I would later rename El Diablo. We got very close to where I thought we needed to be, and I was the orienteer, so I was doing all the map work. And I had in my saddlebags a map, and we were just loping. We were not going very fast. And I opened the map. The wind grabbed the map and blew it over the top of the horse. And the horse bucked his ass up, and I rolled forward and threw his head back and fractured my skull and knocked me out. And I rolled off the back. He didn't buck me off. I just rolled off the back, but I came upside down on my head and compound fractured my collarbone, so it was sticking through my skin. And I broke 6 ribs. And I was out on the ground. And the 2 partners came up and
Kind of shows your concussions, huh?
so finally when I woke up, and I had taken a lot of courses in high mountain rescue, and so I had in my saddlebags, among other things, a lot of duct tape. And so
That was for the camping.
I reached inside, yeah, for the camping. Because duct tape is absolutely, I mean, if you go on any kind of camping trip, duct tape, no matter what you do. It can do a million things. So I pushed the bone back inside my skin and found a place that I could raise my arm to where it would be steady. And then I had them tape me in that position. And I had a GPS unit and satellite unit, and so I found where we were on the mountain. I found exactly what the latitude and longitude was after the second, and I had them write it down. So they wrote it down. There was a guy bringing a string of mules down from a higher portion of the mountain, and he was headed back to the 26 miles, and said, "Take this and call Lifeline." So I passed, and I would have any medicine, didn't have any painkillers, and so just living in that shock and in that pain. And to be frank with you, I didn't really feel much of anything. It just the
Shock took over?
The shock had taken over, and the pain was so intense that I sort of got used to that level, and it didn't spike. But I had forgotten what it felt like to feel normal. But anyway, daylight came, and here's the helicopter flying around, and lands
On your shoulder.
100 yards away. 100 yards away, life on the helicopter. And now, let me describe what I saw. So the pilot gets out, gets the gurney, is dragging the gurney. The co-pilot gets out, well, not the co-pilot, but the EMT gets out, and these big helmets, and running, and I see this in slow motion, running toward me, and the helmet comes off, and she shakes out this long hair.
Boom.
And I'm thinking, I have got to be hallucinating this shit right now. this cannot be happening. And no, she comes over to me and says,
Like EMT Baywatch.
I'm in the Bob Marshall Wilderness on a mountain in Montana. The Life Flight helicopter lands. A woman comes over to me, looks at me and goes, "Fuck, Don Shelby?"
Seriously?
Yes. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I just left HCMC to come out here." She said, I was at HCMC for 15 years, and I just
Oh my God.
Missoula. So she said, "I'm about to become your best friend." I said, "I think you are already." She put an IV in, and I had never used heroin or morphine
Okay, yeah.
or anything like that. And she pulled out about 500 cc's of morphine and stuck it in that IV, and I was in heaven. I had no more pain, and so the doc said, "Are you ready to get on the gurney and be taken to the helicopter?" And I said, "Would you like me to get up and walk to that fucking thing?" I can actually do that now. And so I ended up going there, and the rest is history. But
Wow.
it was a very odd moment in my life to be in all that pain and then see that beautiful woman.
I started giggling myself when you said your horse's name was Oscar,
Yeah.
because suddenly I was reminded of the gopher in your pocket named Carlos.
Yes. Should have
You guys remember that? He was on